Hey everyone, my name is Peter Hall.
My name is Joshua Hall.
We're the Media Maniacs because we'll review anything under the sun. Anyway, we just went and saw the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, and
It's a very hard movie to watch.
yes, it's a good movie, but it's a very uncomfortable movie. And it's the first movie I think it's the first incarnation of the Joker that actually depicts uh the Joker as being mentally ill. Like
I think every incarnation of the Joker is mentally insane.
but they're so suave and smooth even while they're committing the most heinous and savage acts. Plus every other single incarnation of the Joker plans out their crimes.
He planned out his crimes.
Not the same way they did.
He planned out his crime. Okay, maybe he didn't plan out all of his crimes, but he planned out shooting Murray Franklin.
Josh, every other incarnation of the Joker had like the level of planning they put into their crimes, like Heath Ledger's Joker, bombing the hospital, kidnapping a bus full of people, etc., etc.
Putting like a cell phone that was wired to a detonator inside one of his mook's stomachs.
Yes, and then like trying to force people to blow themselves up. Every incarnation of the Joker planned out to an insane degree their crimes.
That doesn't mean they weren't insane, though.
But-
Tyrants are insane, too. They plan out...
But this Joker, everything he did was completely random.
That's true, but...
Like Heath Ledger's Joker and The Dark Knight claimed everything he did was random, that he was like a dog chasing cars. He wasn't. He was totally lying. This Joker, everything he does is random and spur of the moment. Plus, this is the only incarnation of the Joker to depict a man who is mentally ill, and they don't try and cover it up. This is a very uncomfortable movie to watch. It shows a man who is sad and broken and just pathetic.
Just because you're insane doesn't mean you can't, like, plan out your crimes.
And they do all of it. The other incarnations of the Joker commit the most heinous crimes with a suaveness and a smoothness of action. Like they act all like even Heath Ledger's Joker. He was grimier and grittier than like Mark Hamill's animated Batman Joker or Jack Nicholson's Joker in the Tim Burton Batman movie. But he still was suave and debonair in his actions. This Joker is not suave or debonair. He's jerky. He's just creepy. I mean, the other Jokers can be creepy too, but they're still suave and debonair about it.
Yeah, but they're still insane.
I'm not going to argue the point about this. Anyway, like I was saying, it's the first incarnation of the Joker to depict the Joker as actually being mentally ill, and they don't shy away from the fact, like and like the opening
Every incarnation of the Joker is mentally ill.
Will you stop arguing the point?
All right, fine.
Jesus. Okay. Anyway, in the opening scene, he's like meeting with his like government-sponsored therapist, and like there's this he's like supposed to keep a journal for his therapy sessions, and there's this one page where he's written down, "I hope that my death makes more sense than my life," and he misspelled sense, which is supposed to be spelled SENSE, sense, as sense, CENTS. So like he's kind of illiterate. And it was funny, but also kind of sad how illiterate he is.
I'd like to say that like this movie like related to me on a personal level because like I think that Joker was like speaking to like millions of disenfranchised white males. Like,
yeah, that's exactly what the critics are saying, and that's exactly why they don't like this movie. So like your praise of it is like their criticism and why it's bad.
I feel like Arthur Fleck too at my job.
Okay, anyway. So yeah, his social worker is portrayed as being bored and apathetic and barely going through the motions with him. Like at one point, he even says that she even accuses her of never listening to him and asking him all the same questions every time he sees her. And then she tells him that like the government has cut funding for
They're laying her
social
off.
services. Maybe not laying her off, but she's not going to be seeing him anymore. So her therapy sessions with him are being ended. So yeah. So yeah. Anyway, like basically this movie just shows a man being pushed to he's already he's already mentally ill, but it just shows him being pushed to the brink until he finally snaps. And when he snaps, he finds, I guess, joy in his break from reality. Because like there's that famous scene in the trailers where he's like dancing down the stairs in the streets, and he's like kicking his feet into the air and stuff like that. He
Let's talk about the scene where like he gets jumped by a bunch of hooligans for his sign, and then they like beat the crap out of him with it.
Oh yeah,
That's like one of the opening scenes, by the way.
Yeah, and then like his boss yells at him for losing the sign because like he was dancing for a business that was going out of. He was dancing for a store that was going out of business. So like the business owner wanted his sign back, and he couldn't give it back to him because the kids that stole his sign smashed it across his face and broke it. So he gets chewed out by his boss for that, who doesn't believe him that he got jumped and beat up.
With his sign.
Yeah. Anyway, I think like large part of this movie is about how like he unintentionally inspires a protest movement where like after he kills like 3 Wall Street guys
who were about to rape a woman, but because he intervened, they start kicking his ass.
Well, he didn't really intervene, he was just laughing.
Yeah, he was laughing.
They were definitely sexually harassing her. I don't know if they were going to rape her, but they were definitely sexually harassing her, like throwing French fries at her and stuff like that. But anyway, he starts laughing. The woman gets freaked out and runs away. So
they start beating him up.
Yeah.
He shoots 2 of them in self-defense, and in a blind rage hunts the 3rd one down.
Yeah. And then like by murdering these 3 Wall Street guys, like he starts a protest movement where like all these people are dressing up as clowns and they're holding up signs that say "We're all clowns." So I think this is definitely inspired by the Clown World memes that we're seeing on the internet and stuff.
I think it was inspired by Occupy Wall Street and Antifa. Like,
oh, definitely. I mean, kill the rich and all that stuff, but it was also inspired by the Clown World memes.
All right.
Well, do you have to argue every damn thing I say?
People like dissenting opinions.
Okay, I'm not arguing the fact that it was inspired by Occupy Wall Street and the Antifa protests. I also think it was inspired by the Clown World memes.
All right.
So, anyway, let's see. Another thing about this movie is that
I'm getting a shot.
Yeah, okay. Another thing about this movie is that they make you think that Thomas Wayne is his father because his mother is obsessively writing to Thomas Wayne because they live in this crappy apartment that the Wayne family owns. And so she's writing to him, begging him for help. And so he finally reads one of her letters where she says that like where she says that like Arthur Fleck, that's his name, is
his bastard son.
Is the illegitimate son of Thomas Wayne. So then he decides to go and see Thomas Wayne to talk to him about it. And Thomas Wayne claims that
Penny Fleck,
his mother, Penny Fleck, was crazy in that he's not even like biologically her child. She adopted him. And so like that pisses Arthur off. Anyway, he goes to like the psychiatric hospital where his mother was treated and tries to get the records about it, but the records clerk won't give them away without her permission, and she can't sign for them because like she had a stroke and is in the hospital. So he steals the records like right then and there, And then he finds out that Thomas Wayne was correct, that there's this adoption paperwork in his mother's file talking about how he was adopted and how he was abused by her at least one of her mother's boyfriends. Like
one of his.
Yeah. When he was a kid, he was tied to a radiator and he had some sort of head trauma. And so throughout this movie, whenever throughout this movie, he laughs during like really inappropriate situations, and he carries around this card that says that sometimes people with certain mental conditions or who have head trauma, they'll laugh, and their laughter will not match their feelings. So like, he's laughing a lot of times. He's even laughing and crying at the same time. So
and
yeah,
you can definitely feel like that he's in pain when he laughs.
Yeah. So yeah, one of his mother's boyfriends abused him. And she let it happen. She herself was also abused. So up until now, he was doting on his mother, but after he reads this paperwork, he goes to her. Yeah, he goes to her hospital room and suffocates her with a pillow. Let's see. So like let's see. There's several murders that he commits. He kills 3 Wall Street guys. Then he kills his mom. Then he was fired from his job because like he
brought a gun to a children's hospital.
Yeah, he was dancing around as part of his job at a children's hospital, and like he accidentally dropped his gun, and so like the hospital complained, and so he was fired for bringing a gun to the hospital. He claimed it was a prop. And he had the gun because one of his coworkers, this fat bastard named Randall, gave him the gun after hearing about how he was jumped by a gang of hooligans.
Who are all people of color, by the way.
Yeah, that's not important.
I kind of think it is. I mean, yeah, the Wall Street guys were white, but I kind of think it's important that the hooligans who jumped him were mostly... They looked like they were Chicano immigrants.
Yeah. Anyway, this fat bastard named Randall gives him a gun, says that he needs it to defend himself or else he's gonna get fucked out there if he can't defend himself. And then he, I guess, goes and tells his boss that Arthur tried to buy the gun off of him when actually it was a gift. So like when Arthur is
I wonder why Randall did that.
I don't know. When Arthur's like getting his stuff out, that was actually one of the funnier scenes. Like when he says, no, like one of his other clown coworkers, he says, "Hey Arthur, why did you even have that gun in the first place?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know. Why don't you ask Randall? He's the one that gave it to me." And then Randall's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah, but then he's like,
"Oh, I forgot to punch out," and then he punches the punch clock
so hard that he knocks it off the wall.
Yeah. Anyway, after he kills his mom, he's visited by 2 of his former coworkers, one of which he kills. He stabs the guy in the neck. It's the fat bastard Randall. This guy
he stabs him in the eye.
Yeah, this guy's an absolute asshole. He's always making fun of this midget, or I think the guy's a dwarf, because like his body isn't like, has odd proportions. Like midgets, they have normal proportions to their size. Dwarves do not. This guy I think is a dwarf, but this fat bastard named Randall is always like putting this other guy who's a dwarf down, making fun of him. But anyway, they come to visit him because at least a dwarf feels sorry about Arthur's mom dying. And then, like, Arthur practically confesses to, like, killing her. He's like, don't feel sorry for her. I'm actually celebrating. But anyway, he stabs Randall in the neck, because Randall was only there to, like, see what Arthur told the cops about him, because they were being questioned about the 3 guys being murdered on the train. And so, like, the dwarf says, well, they didn't question me. And so this guy, Randall, says, well, that's because the murderer was a normal-sized person. If he was a midget, you'd already be in jail.
If he was a fucking midget, you'd be in jail.
Yeah. Anyway, he stabs this guy Randall in the neck, and then stabs him in the eye, and then, like, smashes his head against a wall. And then, like, the dwarf is freaking out. He thinks he's gonna be next. Arthur tells him to
I
leave.
thought he would be next, if only because he was a witness.
Yeah, so did I. Anyway, Arthur tells him to leave, but the door's locked, so the guy actually has to beg Arthur for help. And so, like, Arthur has to unlock the door because the dwarf isn't tall enough to reach the chain lock. And so, like, before he lets the guy go, he says, I forget what the guy's name was, but he says, you know what? You're the only one that's ever...
Gary.
Gary. He says, you know what, Gary? You're the only one that was ever nice to me. So he kisses the guy on the head and then lets him walk out. And then, like, when he's being chased down by a couple of detectives...
He kind of messes with Gary, though. Like, when Gary walks by, he says, Gary, you can go. I've got nothing against you. And so Gary's like, really? And Joker's like, yeah, really, you can go. So when Gary walks by, Joker moves to attack him, but he's really fucking with him.
Yeah, he goes, ah! Yeah, anyway, he's being chased down by a couple of detectives, and he gets on a train that has a whole bunch of clown protesters, and so, like, they beat the cops up and send him to the hospital, and Joker's able to get away. And then after that, he was invited to the Murray Franklin show. Robert De Niro's in this movie, which I think is kind of surprising. Robert De Niro does this
I do too,
stand-up comedian.
Robert De Niro has revealed himself to be such a social justice warrior pussy. I couldn't see him being in a movie like this.
Yeah. Anyway, Robert De Niro does this like stand-up talk show host. He's like a comedian in the same vein as like Jay Leno, etc. But anyway, he invites Arthur Fleck onto his show after somehow getting footage of Arthur's stand-up routine at a comedy club and then using it to make fun of Arthur, which pisses Arthur off.
Let's talk about that black single mother.
Oh, yeah.
That Arthur Fleck was hitting on.
Yeah, the movie shows like a lot of sequences which seem like they could be fantasy because they seem to like show Arthur's life going well when like everything else is like completely going off the rails, and like he's in love with this African American single mom, and so like he follows her around, and she comes to his apartment and says, "Were you following me?" And so like he's forced to confess, and then she's all like, "I was hoping you could rob me later." So he's like, "Well, I do have a gun. How about tomorrow night?" And then it shows them like having like this sort of grand romance, but the whole thing was like a fantasy, because like
and does he kill her? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it shows her like hanging out with him while his mom's in the hospital and stuff. But anyway, he walks into an apartment, and then she walks in and she says, "What are you doing here? You're in the wrong apartment." And then she like acts like she doesn't even know him or barely knows him. She's like, "You're Arthur, right? You live down the hall from me." So then like it shows him like looking over at her staring at him. And then like
a reference to shoot her with his hand.
Yeah. Anyway, so like they had this moment on an elevator in the apartment where like she talks about how crappy the apartment building they live in is, and then her daughter keeps on talking about it, so she does this thing with her fingers where she's like pretending to blow her brains out, and so like he does the same thing.
I thought she might be a race-lifted Harley Quinn, but now I think maybe it was all a fantasy he had with her.
Yeah. So, anyway, he walks into an apartment, whether on purpose or an accident, I don't know. But she finds him, tells him to get out, and then, like, whether or not he kills her is left up to the viewer to decide. Like, it's totally ambiguous. Like, does he kill her or what? Because, like, he just walks out of the apartment and you don't know what happens to her after that. And then he goes on to the Arthur Murray show, and he just goes into this rant about how awful people are, how awful society is. And then Murray Franklin, that's Robert De Niro's character's name, like he basically tells Arthur what a pathetic loser he is, and then Arthur tells him that he gets what he deserves, pulls out a gun and shoots him in the head. And then the movie's pretty much over from there. It shows Arthur going to jail, but then, like, the cop car is hit by an ambulance, and, like, it turns out that the ambulance is being driven by some Joker protesters, clown protesters, so they ran the cop car, drag Arthur out of the car, put him on the cop car hood. Arthur's injured but still alive. He wakes up, starts coughing up blood, so you think he might be seriously injured or even dying, but then, like, everyone's standing around him. Yeah, well, I don't know. I thought he could have been seriously injured. Anyway, everyone's standing around him cheering, so he gets up, and then he starts doing, like, his dance that we see in the trailers, and everyone's going, yeah, yeah! And then, like, at the end of this movie, Thomas and Martha Wayne are killed by some random guy dressed up in a clown mask. He says, Thomas Wayne, you get what you deserve! So yeah, Thomas Wayne was, who's usually portrayed as a paragon of virtue in other Batman media. He's kind of depicted as like a jerk-ass snob. Like there's this...
His comment about clowns was inspired by Hillary's Basket of Deplorables and Basement Dwellers comment.
Yeah, anyway, in this movie, Thomas Wayne is running for mayor, and there's this comment that he makes where he says that everybody who hates on the rich because they're not part of them or whatever, basically is a clown. That's the gist of what he said. So like he's very unsympathetic in this movie. Whereas in other Batman media, he's portrayed like with the utmost sympathy. So, yeah, and then like at the end, Joker's in like Arkham, he's being interviewed by some state-sponsored therapist. He starts laughing, and she says, "What's so funny?"
And I think he kills her because when he walks out, he's got blood on his shoes. But
yeah.
To get it, it's left very ambiguous. And I think he might even be breaking out because he starts being chased by orderlies down the hall, but
yeah,
it ends after that.
Yeah. So anyway, he starts laughing. She says, "What's so funny?" He says, "I was just thinking of a joke." She says, "You mind telling it to me?" And he says,
You wouldn't get it.
Yeah. And then, like Josh says, it cuts out after that. And then you see him walking out of this room, and he's trailing, like, these red footprints, which look like blood. So, and then, like, after that, he's being chased around by some orderlies. Like, he's going this way, they go that way. He runs back this way, they run that way. So, anyway, that's the movie. That's the Joker movie.
Do you think that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is the same as Heath Ledger's Joker?
No. Totally different Joker portrayals. Like I said, every other Joker incarnation, they do the most heinous crimes.
So you don't think that he is the true Joker?
I didn't say that. I said his Joker portrayal is different from every other Joker portrayal.
Okay, but do you think he's the Joker that goes on to face the Batman?
It's possible. But like every other Joker incarnation, the Joker commits like the most heinous crimes with like an air of with like a suaveness and debonair, a debonair suaveness about him. Like, even Heath Ledger's Joker portrayal, which is grimier and grittier than the other Joker portrayals, he's still suave. He's still debonair. Don't you think so?
I think Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is just as gritty as Heath Ledger's.
But not suave and debonair. Heath Ledger's Joker had, like, was educated in, like, philosophy, the humanities. Heath Ledger's Joker is kind of like Hannibal Lecter. He was, totally.
A clown Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah. What? All right, so talk to you later, YouTubers. Bye.